Welcome to One Little Coder. Today we're going to talk about OPT-175B. 175B stands for 175 billion parameter. This is a true competitor for GPT-3 and it comes from Meta AI, which is Facebook's artificial intelligence research group. I mean, nobody calls it Facebook now, right? So that's okay. So we are going to see what is OPT-175, a little bit of detail about from their blog post. Then we are going to do a live demo of how you can do things with OPT-175B. And then we're going to pick a smaller size model and then code it on Google Colab. So this is how this video is going to be structured. First, let's understand what Facebook has done, what Meta AI has done in this space. First, before even getting into it, let me quickly tell you, if you're not familiar with GPT-3, it's quite impossible at this point. But GPT-3 is this large language model, LLM, large language model from OpenAI that almost created a huge buzz in the PR marketing world, where it can generate coherent text. Since that, we have a huge interest in large language models that can generate coherent text for a lot of variety of reasons. For example, you could generate code, you could try to understand math, you could create facts, you could do chatbot, you could do a lot of things. So in the same lineup, like we have in the past, we have covered GPT-J is from Ulithir AI. We have also covered Bloom very recently, and now we are talking about OPT-175B, which is from Meta AI. So if you see OPT-175, like I said, it is 175 billion parameters, and these data sets, this model has been trained on publicly available data set. And once you look at that, you get to understand what are all the data sets that are used to create this model. So like, for example, if you want to understand what is the proportion of code, what is the proportion of language, what kind of language that are there, you can very well go and understand the data set. I'm not getting into that. So the main thing that I wanted to highlight from this blog post is one thing that I love is when big companies, especially companies that train large language models, talk about the way they use computation. This might not be relevant to you when you're watching this tutorial. You are expecting me to show you large language model text generation, but I would want to take a moment for you to remember that anytime we do computation, it consumes electricity, it generates heat, and that is not good for the environment. And imagine like all these companies start building their own large language model. It's going to take a lot of carbon footprint. And one of the good things that we started seeing companies doing is talking about how they use the compute. Like for example, in case of Bloom, we knew that Bloom used a supercomputer whose heat that was generated, it was used to heat the place. So like that, people started mentioning it, which is a good thing. And it's also mentioned in this case where they said how much is the carbon footprint that they have used. Like for example, their reference point is of GPT-3, they have used 1/7 of carbon footprint. I think this is quite encouraging. And also you can see that there are other references like relative measures that they have mentioned. And so that's something that like I want to appreciate the team for what they have done. But other than this, I would link this blog post in the YouTube description. If you want to check out their model, you can click, there is a link there, and it will take you to the model. But now what we are going to do now is we are going to get into the live demo, which was available very recently through their new platform called Alpa. Now, what is Alpa? Alpa is a system for training and serving gigantic machine learning models. Alpa makes training and serving large language models like GPT-3 simple, affordable, and accessible to everybody. You can host your own service. You can go check it on GitHub, but kindly they have given us a demo where we can try OPT-175B. So I might probably do a separate video on Alpa, but this video is about OPT. So if we have to look at OPT, we have been given 4 types of tasks that we can do. So one is you can get facts. Second, you can treat it as a chatbot. Third, you can just get airport codes. Fourth, you can use translations. Fifth, you can get some crypto details. You can generate code. You can understand math. Now, are these the only things that you can do with OPT-175B? No, absolutely not. You can do a lot more things. There are a lot more downstream tasks you can fine-tune this for example, like text classification, causal language modeling. You can do a lot more things, but right now this is the demo that they have given. Let's quickly check a couple of things, then we can go into the coding part actually. So I'm going to click code, and when you click code, it says def fib, returns the kth Fibonacci number. Check the corner cases. Like I'm going to change it. I'm going to say def detect email. I think this is something that we did input text. This is something that we did with Bloom. I have a separate video of how I try to build regex with Bloom. So detect email, Python function that detects email ID from text from the input text and returns the email ID that detects email ID using regex. Let's try our luck. Okay, this is forbidden. Oh, did I write something very wrong? Let me try to refresh this and see. This is surprising. Okay, this is forbidden now. If I try anything else, is it going to work? That's forbidden as well. That's quite surprising. For the code part, okay, so now at least the Wikipedia facts are working. So where 2004 Olympics held, Athens, Greece, and then you ask the next question. So one of the tips that you need to remember when you write prompts, there's a huge domain of interest that's called prompt engineering. But when you write prompts, always make sure that it's a starting line of something bigger. Like what I see is, like, a lot of people, when they write prompt, they think of themselves talking to something, like in this case, like talking to a machine. You're not ideally talking to a machine. The whole point of prompt is like, this is a prompt after which it's going to create something. For example, when you said where were the 2004 Olympics held, Athens, Greece. So you're now indicating the model that you are looking into a question and answer format. And then when you say what is the longest river on earth, then it says Nile, and you get other question and answer, like, because your text is long, the response length. But you get the point. Like, you need to make sure that what you're actually giving is like the starting line, the prompt of something that is bigger. Let me try code once again. I mean, it was quite surprising. It didn't work. Okay, cool. That's fine. So translation, I want to go home. Chinese is this. English, I don't know. English, I'm hungry. Okay, now it's going to generate translation, and let's see. So after this, I'm going to move into the code where we are going to use a smaller version of the same model, which is currently available, hosted on Hugging Face Model Hub, and then we are going to generate text using them. Cool. I honestly do not know Chinese to know whether this is right or wrong, but yeah, the point is it generated something. So thanks to Alpa and OPT. Now moving on to the Google Colab, I've got a Google Colab notebook. This Google Colab notebook will be linked in the YouTube description just below like button, so you can try it out yourself. When you create a Google Colab, if you're creating from scratch, make sure that you change the runtime to GPU. GPU will fasten your inference process. Inference in machine learning means just predicting or trying to do something rather than training the model in itself. Once you have the Google Colab notebook, it shows a couple of warnings which I found trivial, so I'm ignoring the warnings. This is generally not a good practice. I don't want my video screen to be completely red, so that's why I'm ignoring warning, but generally not a good practice if you are going to code. After you ignore the warnings, then install the transformers library, which is the Hugging Face library that we are going to use to create the pipeline and generate text. Once that is finished, now make sure that you have got pipeline and set seed imported. So if you know that whenever you use transformers, there are two ways you can do certain NLP tasks. One is pipeline, which is like a one-stop solution for a lot of machine learning tasks, NLP tasks, in fact machine learning tasks I should say, where you can define the task and then you can just get started if you do not want a lot of customization. But otherwise, you need to download the model, you need to download the tokenizer separately. So I'm not taking that route, I'm taking the pipeline route, where I can define a text generation model, define the model that I want to use, where in this case I'm using an OPT 1.3 billion parameters model. Still, it's a big model, huh? I mean, you might think that, we're not using the 1.175 billion, but I would say 1.3 billion in itself is a big model. And by default, do sample is always false, like for the for sampling. So here I can explicitly say do sample is equal to true, and then do I 0 is equal to 0. In this case, by default it is -1. Here we are saying 0 because we have a GPU. CUDA is 0 here. This is generator. So once you set the pipeline, again, seed, if you want to reproduce the result, it's always a good practice. Now finally, after the generator is set, now comes the main part. The main part is just this part, which is generator of, which is like a function where you give a text prompt and then you can add certain parameters like what is the maximum length. Otherwise, you might get just a couple of words. In my case, I've given max length of 500 because I want something longer, but in your case, you can always try out what you want. So the next thing is you can just give the prompt, and it's going to result a JSON object. So what I'm doing is I'm just basically doing like 0, the first object I'm picking up, and I'm picking the generated text, and then I'm printing it for you. That's what the code is. Once again, to quickly summarize the code, we ignore the warnings, install the library from transformers, import pipeline and set seed. Set seed for reproducibility, generate the pipeline for text generation with the language model of 1.3 billion parameters. This model is currently hosted on Hugging Face Model Hub, and then sampling will give you better results. So do sample is equal to true, and device is equal to false, and finally, you've got the generator that is generating the text. And when I give the same question that we tried, what is the longest river on earth? The answer is gibberish, because longest river on earth is not Great Wall of China. The shortest river on earth is not the Nile. So what is the last time United Nations passed resolution condemning Israel? I'm not sure if it is March 2011. I mean, Israel doesn't give a damn anyways, but I'm not sure if all these facts are correct, but the larger the language model, the more precise the results. And I'm not here to do Wikipedia. I mean, like, that's not how I use large language models usually. And another thing for you to notice is it's possible that these language models spit out sensitive stuff. So when you're going to productionize it, always make sure that you're using it properly. Now let's get back to business. Like, what I want to do, I'm going to clear the output. I'm going to do a couple of items. One, I'm going to try to generate a poem now. Okay, so I'm going to try. There is a star man waiting in the sky. So this is David Bowie. I'm going to look for the lyrics, and I'm going to just copy this, and I'm going to put it here. Okay, so I'm using docstring so that like I'm actually trying to, oh my goodness, I just shift entered. That's fine. Let's see, what does it say? There is a starman waiting in the sky. He would like to come and meet us. He thinks he would blow our minds. There is a starman waiting in the sky. He told us not to blow it because he knows it's all worthwhile, because he knows there is a chance that one day he'll meet you. He told us not to blow it. It just repeats. Again, if it just repeats, there are certain parameters like temperature, top K, like the ones that you see here, top P, sorry, temperature, these things that you can change. Okay, this is okay. I mean, it managed to generate 2. So, but I wanted to start the prompt with this. He told me let the children. I actually wanted to do with this, so I'm going to do enter and space, and then I'm going to see what is it going to do. Okay, let's see. Let the children, let the boys get it, let the men, let the angels be, let the children, let the women sing, let the angels, you are my starman, I'm your starman, I'm your starman. Don't run for your promise, love is here to stay. I mean, it doesn't look like poem, but it still looks funny. Okay, so our attempt to generate a poem, I wouldn't say like it's a great success. maybe I'm happy with 20%. And giving max length of 500 is usually a terrible idea. So what you ideally want to do with these kind of large language model is you generate a shorter amount of text. Now use the rest and then use that as your prompt, and then generate more. Like that is the way you would ideally do something. Okay, so let's try one more thing. So explain prob question. Okay, so I'm going to now try a question and answer format. Question: explain probability like I'm 5. Okay, and answer. Let's see what happens. Answer. So I'm trying a question and answer format now. So the way I'm trying to explain is like I'm just giving a title, and then I'm asking it to explain probability like I'm 5 and answer. I assume that it will be again gibberish, but I still want to see what is the gibberish. Okay, it'd be good to discuss with who's this person. Who's this? Ryan Peebles? Is it I don't know if it's a real human being. Okay, it doesn't look like a real human being. Cool. He's an expert. I think the title is misleading. Cool. Overlapping probabilities. Okay. So explanation did not go well. So question and answer format, in this case it didn't go well. That's fine. So the next thing that I wanted to generate is I want to try to generate a short story. Okay. So I want to generate a short story. Right. This is a short story about rainbow. Okay, I don't want to take rainbow. This is a short story about planet Earth. Planet Earth is our, and let's see what happens. I'm trying to see if it's going to be a short. Okay, planet Earth is our habitat. The title is from a famous German poet, Heimlied Land. Our habitat is a long-term process, millions of years of evolution. Today, the evolution is a long-term process, eons of evolution. So, as the ecosystem is constantly changing, the land changes. I hope we see a new era of human activity on Earth, the rise of human civilization. I don't know if it's going to be machine. So, this didn't look like a short story, but this was really decent content. So, I would give it here. The final thing that I'm going to try is I'm going to try to see if it can generate a blog post like on a topic. Okay. I'm going to say this is a blog. This is a new blog post on iPhone. Okay, iPhone is a smartphone. Okay, let's see. So this again. Okay, that's it. iPhone is a smartphone. iPhone is. You only need iPhone to jailbreak it. For those who do not know what is jailbreaking, like many years back, iPhone was fully locked ecosystem. Even now it might be. For you to do a lot of things, people used to do jailbreaking. I don't know if anybody is old enough in understanding jailbreaking watching this video. This is a new blog post on iPhone. This is an article on iPhone. iPhone is a. I'm trying to see if it can generate more text. That's my idea. Okay, iPhone is an iPhone clone. It copies nothing. Apple is not original anyway. So you don't think that all the various Apple ripoffs out there aren't original? Why do you get that impression? Okay. So it looks like a conversation. This is an opinion piece, not a technical report. Cool. The iPhone is not perfect. Apple's marketing is not the best way to use it. If you wish to read the tech reports, there are a lot of places to go. Okay, cool. I don't think this is again a very good explanation, but that's okay. So I really got one final idea to try. So this tweet content ideas. Okay, idea. Max length should be what is Twitter? I don't know these days. What is 200? iPhone is a. Let's see. Tweet content idea. I said iPhone is a. I'm going to change iPhone to something. iPhone is an iPhone. iPhone is an iPhone. iPhone is an iPhone. Okay, cool. That's terrible. Okay. I want to just say global warming is. You know what? I don't want to take anything sensitive. Monday blues. and let's see what happens. Tweet content. What rubbish is this? There's a company like this, Blue. Okay, Monday Blues. I mean, seriously, it gives me literal. Monday Blues is a little less interesting, a lot more interesting. I actually read it during a breakup. Is it what, a book? Okay. This also didn't seem to go very well. I mean, like when I tested Bloom, Bloom really gave me very coherent result. This is not a judgment of this model. It's also possible that the prompts are not very well formatted. The model that we loaded is not quite heavy. It's just 1.3 billion parameters. I mean, 1.3 is huge, but still, I don't know. Overall, if you want to try out OPT 1.3 billion for text generation, this Google Colab notebook will be in the YouTube description. If you want to try the demo live, you can always try out here. This is 175 billion, so you can understand the difference between how something happens there, how something happens here. Like for example, if you give the same thing here, you would probably know that it's going to be something different. So response length, Monday Blues is, and then it says it's going to take for 47 seconds. Also, if you want to know more on the training data, I would recommend you to go look at the paper. I think they said Appendix C. In Appendix C, most likely you should be able to see what is the data that they used to train, and what kind of proportions that they have got, and also they've got some benchmarks against, I think, GPT-3, which you should check. Like their pitches, 175 billion is comparable to GPT-3 while requiring only 1/7 of carbon footprint to develop. Looks like that's one of their USP, and it can also be used for zero shot and few shot learnings, and I mean, like any other language model. So overall, it looks like a nice package. Okay, so the result is almost similar. Cool. Overall, it looks like a nice package. I would love to see what you create or what you're going to do with this large language model. But if not, this is another GPT-3 competitor, GPT-3 alternative. GPT-3 is not completely open. That's why all these people are publishing their libraries and their packages or their data model open with model weights. Any questions, please let me know in the comment section. Otherwise, happy coding. Peace.